I'm your host, Greg Lassiter. Before we start the show, I want to thank everybody for watching us because this year, 30 Frames a Second with Nat Wood and myself, we won 2017 Uli Award. Well, the film festival was a total success. The People's Film Festival, this is their 6-year anniversary of doing the film festival. It was phenomenal. We had people from all over the world. And I personally want to thank each and every one, from the volunteers to the filmmakers to everybody who participated to make it work. It was great, and we look forward to next year. So we got a great show. Nat Wood and I have a great show for you today. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Navaja are his own and are not necessarily represented by the organizers of this festival or any other festival or this group, Super Mambo. So with that said, I implore you all to join us on June 11th at the Puerto Rican Day Parade and take this parade back. This is our parade. It doesn't matter who decides to pull out, who's a sponsor or who's not. The parade is not about sponsorship. It's not about corporations selling products. The parade is about the Puerto Rican people coming together and standing firm on their belief and taking over Fifth Avenue and celebrating their heritage and celebrating their culture. ¡Viva Puerto Rico!
Maldita la nube de la represión, 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 maldita la nube de la reprimida democracia. Camino sola por la acera, cuando fiera me gusta el monstruo escorpión, me mordió el calor y llegué de rodillas al café. Me dio un ataque de ansiedad, porque en esta isla tropical inyectan al corazón por vacilar veneno. La maquinaria con sus dientes provoca que mi comadito se revuelve al son de mi DJ set. Ay, mira, no me vengas con tu kissing flow, tu billecito que yo soy tan cool, no. Ay, mira, que me venimos todos en el tren, que cuando te toco uno te voy a poner a ver. Toda la estrella. Hay que tenerle miedo a la sutil censura, la doble vara. Puerto Rico con migajas, al nepotismo moderado. Al te lo empujo con estilo, te mantengo boquietado. Hay el íntimo sale ser independiente, de todo lo que critica sobre el espejo evidente. Ay, no me quedo con migajas, el frito era en mi casa. Bueno, bailalo. Ay, mira, no te pases loco, que te jalo con las patas. Ay, no me quedo con mi gata, el frito era en mi casa. Ay, mira, no te pases bruto, que te jalo por la patas. Eso. Camino sola por la acera. Camino sola. Camino sola por la acera. Camino sola. Eso, vuélvete loco. Mi perro bailo verde, mi signo, vacilando con el tuyo. Ay, soltalo malo, apriétalo rico, mueve lo que tenga, vuélvete loquito. Ay, soltalo malo, apriétalo rico. Ay, baila, 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 vuélvete loquito, lindo. Lo que yo te tengo es azúcar cristal, agua, 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 fuego para vacilar. Lo que yo te tengo es azúcar cristal, agua, agua, agua y fuego para vacilar. Oh.
Greg Lassiter, here with no other than the great Nat Wood.
How to adjust your television set? You are fortunate enough to have tuned in to 30 frames a second.
You have spun that into the fact where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy.
Welcome back to 30 frames a second. You just witnessed, next weekend will be the Puerto Rican Day Parade. And actually, Puerto Ricans is just not one day. They celebrate a couple days. And I have to say, the culture, the Puerto Rican culture, the Hispanic culture, when it comes to Puerto Ricans, they know how to party. They know how to party really well. And as you see, that they party hard. They go hard for like days and days. Anyway, I want to welcome the creator of 30 Frames, my partner in crime, the man with the master plan, Nat Wood. Welcome to your own show, man.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
doing?
How you doing?
Am I
That's a great
sitting?
shot. That's a great shot.
Okay, good.
That's a great shot.
Yeah,
Nat,
sit back a little bit.
you shot that
Yeah,
on your cell
yeah.
phone.
Well, I shot the first part on my cell phone, and the second part, I had my camera.
The 4K.
The 4K.
It's beautiful. They both look
Well,
the
they're
same.
both 4K.
Yeah, but they look great.
right.
This year at the Puerto Rican Day Parade,
Right.
it's been a big controversy.
Correct.
Okay, the controversy is this, people. Every year for, 30, 40 years, that every ethnic group in New York has a parade pretty much. But this year, it's a big controversy because Oscar Lopez Rivera,
Right.
who just got out of jail for doing 35 years
Correct.
for
seditious
conspiracy.
For
seditious
being affiliated
with the
FALN.
Right. Now, seditious conspiracy is this: when two or more people or a group of people try to or think about taking over
If they
a territory.
talk about it to each other, it
That's
becomes
called
sedition.
This guy did 35 years, but when he got out Obama commuted his sentence after 35 years.
Correct.
And when he got out, they wanted to honor him.
Right.
So the mayor, the governor, all these corporate
The police union had
The
a
Hispanic.
bid first.
Right.
And there's a couple of people in the police. One or two I can understand where they're coming from because they showed this cop whose father had gotten killed from an FALN bomb.
Right.
I can understand his position because it's personal. However, the mayor, the politicians, some of the corporations, I also understand the corporations because corporations, any controversy they pull out because they want to sell beans. Goya wants to sell their beans.
Right.
However, if you're going to make an issue of Oscar Lopez Rivera, there's a lot of issues on the table that we have completely avoided.
That's correct. Now, the fact is, he never set a bomb
Correct.
at all.
He was never charged.
He was never charged with that. But see, this is what I respect about
with sedition.
Sedition, right? Conspiracy. So pretty much, if you're charged with any kind of conspiracy, you're getting the same time as you've done it.
Correct.
So my problem, my thing is this. One thing about the Puerto Ricans, they said, you know what? We don't care. We're going to stay. They shouldn't care. They said we don't need. They're telling the establishment, we don't need your approval for you to select who our hero is.
And the people who chose to sit out, and for the record, Oscar Lopez Rivera opted to not be honored. He wrote a letter to the parade. He'll be in the parade as a Puerto Rican.
Right, but not as
he avoided the controversy.
That's correct. Right.
So you don't have Oscar to kick around. But in point of fact, the people who chose to set out the parade, the politicians, they need Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans don't need them.
Right.
They can't get elected door catcher without the Hispanic vote.
That's correct.
Goya beans can't sell a can of beans without Latinos. Ain't nobody else buying that stuff. The Irish ain't buying Goya beans.
You know, people seem to forget. Let's talk about politicians that were terrorists. Okay, like I'm gonna tell you, for instance, people seem to forget about Menachem Begum.
Right.
Menachem Begin, before he was prime minister, he was part of setting a bomb in Palestine with the Palestinians.
There's even a bigger issue than that, than who's a terrorist, who's not a terrorist. If you're going to deal with Oscar Lopez Rivera, if you're going to deal with the FALN, then the issue that you're really dealing with is colonialism.
That's exactly right.
White supremacy.
Right.
If you remember when Obama was president, both Newt Gingrich and Rudy Giuliani accused President Obama of being anti-colloquialist.
Right. Colonialism, right. Colonialism, right.
Anti-white supremacist, basically, because colonialism is white supremacy.
That's all it is.
That's the your country, whatever country that is. Generally, it's European countries that got their power from the Pope of Rome.
Right.
Marauding islands and countries for their resources all over the planet.
And the slaves.
And
the people
slaves.
taking them as slaves.
You know,
That's right.
But it's not coincidental that almost every country of color speaks a European language.
Right. That's correct. That's without a doubt. That's without a doubt.
Yeah, you're talking about people who are African in culture and Arawak and Taino speaking Spanish.
Right, that's correct.
Or
that's
British
correct.
or French.
Or French, right? That definitely, right.
That is what they were defending. The New York Times and Giuliani Gingrich was the first person to accuse Obama of being anti-colonialist.
Anti-white supremacy, right?
Right. And I was insulted. I was like, how the hell are you pro-white supremacy?
But he didn't push back. That was another issue.
He never pushed back.
back.
He never pushed back. So let me be the first Negro to push back on
it. I think we did push back on it before, though.
We did.
Right.
But in case you missed it, let me push back on this. Giuliani accused Obama of being anti-American.
Right.
And the New York Times confronted him on that. And his words were to the effect, well, this is not a racial issue. What I am saying is that Obama is, and this is his words, not mine, Obama is he's a socialist and anti-colonialist.
Now, what that means, hold on. What that means is that because he didn't get along, he was in fact committing treason among Americans.
It means that in Giuliani's warped, psychotic troll of a mind, and Gingrich's troll of a mind, that to be American is to be, by definition, a white supremacist.
That's exactly right.
It means that by definition, you think that you equate being American with going to other people's lands, killing everybody, enslaving everybody, and taking what they have in your mind.
Right.
Because this is what you have accused a man of being against.
Right. And that's insane. Because if that's the case, let's look at the treason and look at what the establishment is doing now.
Right.
How is that? The establishment now is committing every aspect of treason.
Right.
So why isn't the Congress and the senators or the Republicans, for that matter, the Democrats?
Also, this is a time to look at Puerto Rico today.
Right.
And see what has come of Puerto Rico.
It's a big mess.
It's a mess.
It's a huge mess.
Hedge funds have raped the country dry. Raped the healthcare system dry. Raped the education system dry. They literally, Puerto Rico is left without a pot to piss in. Puerto Rico is a glorious, glorious country.
Right, it really is.
It should be nothing but bountiful.
Right.
And colonialism, marauding countries all over the place has done to Puerto Rico what it's done to every place else. What it's done to all of Africa, what it's done to all of the Caribbean, what it's done to all of Latin America. Any place where people of color live.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Marauding nations.
Right. That's right.
Have raped them dry.
And I've been to Puerto Rico a couple times. It's a beautiful place. It could be. You could tell once it was a beautiful. At Cuba.
All of those
but
places
right now,
paradise.
Right now they have the highest rate of crime.
Correct.
Drugs, disease, unemployment. They can't make their bills. You know, the country itself, and that comes from America pillaging all our territories.
Correct.
But now, Puerto Ricans now have, their big time of the year is the Puerto Rican Parade.
Right.
But, instead of the parade is on a Sunday.
Right.
But as we used to know it, Spanish Harlem.
Right. Oh, that's been gentrified into oblivion.
Spanish Harlem.
Right.
Spanish Harlem runs from 100.
Right.
Lexington, 100 from Lexington all the way over to the FDR, all the way to 110th Street. Now it's not called Spanish Harlem.
Right.
It's called East Harlem.
Right.
And it's been so, like, the rents.
They want to call West Harlem Soha.
Soha, right. So the gentrification has come in. Spanish Harlem used to be, it's a great place.
Correct.
Now, it wasn't a lot of crime.
The first thing to do is to strip a community of their culture.
Right.
And
i.e. Harlem.
That's right. When you strip and it's important to note that they don't strip white people of their culture. They want to strip everybody else of their culture.
We don't go down in Soho. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. We don't go down in Soho and strip them of their culture.
Right.
Because Soho is all whiter than white.
But there's
the West Village.
There's no demands upon white communities as to who they can or cannot show or what they can or cannot do within their communities, the way it is with people of color.
Right.
When you talk about redefining Harlem, when you talk about redefining neighborhoods,
right,
and stripping them of their culture. Black people have almost been totally stripped of their culture.
I don't know one place in New York where African Americans have lived that's not been watered down, as they say.
Well, they've taken black culture, and they've substituted it with what they call hip hop culture.
Right. Which is well, not to cut you off on that, but hip hop culture and black culture is on totally, as I see it, on totally ends of the scale. I don't look. There's no such thing to me, black culture, and I don't even. That's an insult.
Well, also hip hop culture stemmed from one small part of black culture.
I can't even accept hip hop culture being part of black culture.
But it's not even hip hop culture.
Okay.
What is being produced now is not hip hop culture. Right. It's hip hop by way of what white corporations allow to
deem it to be.
That is correct.
Right.
So it's not even black culture. One of the things that I wanted to show in the opening clip is that this was Puerto Rican culture. If you look, you see generations.
Right.
You see women playing the congas, old women playing the congas.
From old women to little kids.
Little kids.
Yes, right.
Little kids.
Right.
They're all there together. They're all embracing their culture.
Right.
None of this was anything that I manufactured.
Right,
this
right.
happened before me. This was them celebrating their culture and being comfortable enough to ignore me because
they're doing their thing.
I'm shooting from the inside
Right.
out as opposed to the outside in.
Right.
I'm not trying to document something and promote myself
Right.
on NBC.
Right.
This is their culture that I'm presenting to the world, and they're comfortable enough around me to do their thing, and I
Right.
was lucky enough to.
Where was that, Nat? Where was that?
This was
Shannon?
the Lower East Side.
That was the Lower East Side?
That was
was
Avenue
the
C.
Loisaida, that was the Loisaida parade.
Loisaida.
Right, Loisaida, right.
A guy who used to work here. There's a big thing about this school building. They call it Charis.
Right.
Armando Perez was there. A lot of Puerto Rican activists came out of,
Right.
out of that
Right.
school. But there was a park. That park is the park that set off the squatters movement of the
Back in the Lower,
80s.
then the Lower
Right,
East Side,
right,
which was called
right.
then. What was it? What it was called the Lower? What was it called then? What was it?
Well, they called it Loisaida. The Puerto Ricans named it that.
The Loisaida, right? The Loisaida, right?
Instead of Lower
East Side, right.
They made it.
But now, but it was originally called Lower East Side. Now it's called the East
It was
Village.
called the Lower East Side.
Right now it's called the East Village, right?
It's been gentrified,
right.
And they are actually even gentrifying into the projects along Avenue D.
Right.
So the gentrification is moving all the way through to the Lower East Side, and
But there's a huge population of Puerto Ricans in the Lower East Side now, right?
Correct.
You know, because
but not nearly as many as there were.
But
they've been pushed to the river
almost Avenue D, right?
And now white folks have their little bicycles,
right? City Bank.
The products.
Well, that's right. You go if you go up to If you go up to 100, where it was Spanish Harlem,
Right.
City Bike.
Right.
Has put bikes to rent,
Right.
which you would never see
Correct.
in the projects and all of Spanish Harlem.
Oh,
you know,
the East Village is so gentrified, and now East Harlem is becoming so chi-chi and
no doubt. It's just too expensive to live there now.
It's impossible to live there.
But to live in East Harlem, it's the same as living on the Upper East Side, right? So my question is, what's going to
be able to live in Harlem?
No.
Hot minute.
What's going to happen to that generation? Because there's still a few generations up there in East Harlem, Spanish Harlem. What's going to happen to those people? Where are they going to go? Because the Bronx is being gentrified as well.
That is correct. And Brooklyn is now the most expensive borough.
Oh yeah, in New York, it's more expensive than Manhattan.
More expensive than Manhattan.
And you got to commute to Manhattan.
Correct.
That to me, you might as well live.
Correct.
See, the people move to Brooklyn because it's supposed to be the hip scene.
Right. They could be. Originally, people started flooding Brooklyn because it was everything and less rent.
Right, exactly. Culture there.
Less rent.
Right. Like Dumbo.
Right.
Dumbo used to be. Dumbo used to be a kind of a hip, like low rent place right under the bridge. Now you can't get a loft there for less than $5,000 a month. But what's going to happen to these people?
A lot of them are going to have to move out of New York, and they'll be.
When you say out of New York, as a general, but not to a different borough.
I'm talking about to poor red states. I'm talking about Florida, Mississippi, South Carolina.
Right.
They'll never be able to come back to New York.
Because once you're out of New York, it's hard to come back.
Unless you come back rich.
Right.
Even if you go to someplace else in New York, if you could find another place that you could afford in New York, once you can't get back into your community because
it's gentrified. The rents are crazy.
The rent is
so, but there's something like just the black culture.
Right.
What happened that we let Harlem become gentrified?
Gentrification is a very slow process, but it happens in baby bites. If you boil the water, and drop a turtle into boiling water, or drop a crab into boiling water, it's gonna fight like hell to get out.
Right.
But if you drop the crab in warm water and slowly bring the temperature up,
right,
they'll lay there until they'll boil. Right. Slowly, the body acclimates itself
to the
temperature as it gets hotter.
Right. That's a great way of looking at gentrification.
That is gentrification.
That's a great way.
Gentrification takes decades before it actually happens, and a lot of times what they do is crime-strapped communities so that you're begging for gentrification.
And that's what's happening in East Harlem.
And that's what's happening. What's happening everywhere.
Because from East Harlem used to be, because if you look at the makeup of East Harlem from 100 to 110, but let's just go from First to Park.
Right.
There's nothing more. Okay, you got on each side on Park and on First, there are projects.
Right.
And everything else, it's surrounded by projects.
Right.
So those people in the projects come in, and they come in the middle,
right.
and they fight each other from one project to the other, and then that's when the people that live there, that's where gentrification comes in. Okay, we can't have this anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up on the rents and flush all these people out here.
Right.
But the clever part about...
Even that's very gradual.
Right.
They don't bring in the super rich. They'll bring in a college student here and a college student there. And that takes years. And little by little, you look in your building and... there's no more cigarette smoking in the building.
Right.
And
whereas, no more hanging out in front of the building.
No more hanging out in front of the building.
Right.
Whereas you had like maybe one white tenant, now the building is more than 50% white and getting whiter.
But
and all the rules that apply to you don't apply to them.
Right.
So they're making money hand over fist because they get in the building and basically they sublet themselves into being able to travel the world.
Right.
But if you tried to do that, your butt would be gone.
Right.
They drag you in court.
Right. Because you're violating some policy. Right.
Correct.
That's
You're
right.
violating the terms of the agreement.
Right. But you know what? I was walking down Park yesterday and got to like 97, and there's projects on both sides. Dude, guys, I'm gonna say this because you don't see this often. I saw a lot of white people going and living in the projects.
Right.
No, I say project. Okay. Well, let me define projects. New York City housing, NYCHA.
Yeah.
Those are considered projects. Where it comes from.
Everybody in New York knows what the damn projects is.
But I'm saying everybody. I'm talking about people that don't see us, that don't know about New York. The projects, projects are not bad places for the most part. I've never lived in a project, but when you see white people in the projects, that tells you something.
When they on their little bikes and they
city bikes, zooming in, they're city bikes, and they park their bike right outside the project. Because city bike has conditioned themselves right outside the project. You got a line of bikes right outside the projects. Now, oh my God, black people, brown people, they're not going to rent those bikes. For one, it's too expensive.
Right.
So who's those bikes? What does that say?
Card to rent those.
Right. That's wrong.
No. I mean, poor people are cash people. They're not like, they don't have to worry about sticking their card in,
with the chip. But my thing is, you see what gentrification is doing all over New York City.
It's my show.
Somebody's calling you on the show.
Father Lucas.
From Community Cop.
Father Lucas, I can't talk to you now because I'm on TV.
And he knows that.
Call Veronica.
Oh my goodness, that is funny. And he's on next, right?
No,
he's not on the Community Cop. I thought he was on Community Cop.
Leave because he just messed up my show.
But if you look at New York City has changed drastically in the last 5 years.
That is correct.
Not only, it's not so much about the rents.
Right.
It's about the culture that New York had, like Harlem, Spanish Harlem.
Oh yeah.
There's culture no more.
That's what I mean about we have spit on our own culture, and we're in a pickle for it. Harlem, West Harlem.
Right. Then West Harlem, you consider Morningside.
From 110th Street to about 150th Street.
Okay, right. Okay.
Where the viaduct is.
Right.
To 155th Street.
Right.
From Fifth Avenue to basically Broadway.
Okay, Broadway, yeah. Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
Broadway, Broadway, right.
From Central Park to the viaduct. But that's West Harlem. And there is culture and history all throughout Harlem, history that rocked the world.
Right.
And we have turned our back on the best parts of ourselves to embrace what we think Whitey will pay for.
But that's crazy though,
It is
because
crazy.
we're looking
It's
for
suicidal.
because we're looking for an approval and acceptance.
Correct.
And like
And
if you,
that's our biggest.
it's a big problem because if you just walk up 110th Street, well, first of all, right in the middle of Harlem, people don't understand it's an Ivy League school.
Right.
Columbia.
Right.
Columbia is in Harlem.
Right. Also, that Harlem is the stuff of legends. That when they talk about the Harlem Renaissance,
Right.
They're talking about the stuff of legends. When
Right.
you go to that library, Schomburg Library,
Right.
you're talking about a library named after Arturo Schomburg.
Right.
You're talking about songs are written about Harlem. Drop Me Off in Harlem.
Right.
Duke Ellington.
The
wrote
A Train.
songs in Harlem.
A-Train, A-Train, what, the fastest way to-
You're talking about Duke Ellington. You're talking about where Ella Fitzgerald got her start
Yep.
in music.
Yep.
You're talking about where Langston Hughes
Yep.
was.
Yep.
You're talking about a history so rich and so significant that to throw that away, to just throw your culture away.
Because that's what's happening.
But that is the predicament that we're in. That's why we are so scattered
Right.
and so alone and isolated because we've become that thing. One of the things that's important to remember. And old activists, I might as well get everybody on my nerves.
Right.
Especially since Lucas called up and
He
messed
called-
up my show.
And he knows better.
They're always talking about Malcolm this and Malcolm that,
Right.
Malcolm this, Malcolm that. Well, Malcolm was a work in progress.
Right.
And Malcolm wouldn't be quoting Malcolm from 50 years
No.
ago because Malcolm was whenever
Progressing.
the paradigm changed.
He changed.
He changed.
That's right.
When he got more information, his thinking changed over and over again.
Right.
When Malcolm was alive, and that brings us to Bill Maher. Since
Right.
we're going to talk about
Yeah, I was going to tell you about that. Let's talk about that. Go to that. Okay, we
we'll
got
get to
time.
Bill Maher.
You know I was going to come to that.
Yeah, we'll get to Bill Maher. And we have kind of different thoughts on that.
Right.
But Malcolm referred to the house Negro and the field Negro.
That's right.
Now, there's a problem with that. And if Malcolm had lived long enough, he'd have realized that he is more like me than what he was describing.
Right.
There's a third kind of Negro. The problem with the house Negro and the field Negro, they have the same problem.
Right.
It describes slaves.
That's exactly right.
But
But they're still slaves.
They're still slaves.
They're still slaves.
And it has nothing to do with not being a slave.
Right.
There's this third category that Malcolm overlooked. There's a runaway.
There you go.
Those black people who would not acclimate themselves to slavery.
Right, that's
and
right.
runaways consisted of house Negroes and
Field Negroes. So people just didn't
who
want to do it. Right.
Who said, I'm going to go out there. If I live, I live. If I die, I die.
Right.
But I'm not a slave.
Right. That's right.
We have 2.5 million black people under some sort of slave prison hold. And we are desperately trying to get back to the plantation. There is a group, like I said, it's not just house Negroes.
Right.
I ain't one of them.
No, neither am I.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not one of them. Right.
I am actually a runaway.
I'm gonna run away with you. Because I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
And
But-
I was raised by runaways.
Right.
Harlem, I was raised by the Harlem Renaissance.
Right.
The Harlem Renaissance consisted of hustlers.
Right. Right.
People who would not acclimate to
The system.
slavery,
Yeah,
to the system,
right.
to the system.
Buck the system at every chance, right.
Right. The whole Black Renaissance in Harlem, the Apollo Theater, Ella Fitzgerald, all the musicians. A lot of that money was generated from numbers, and that was Bumpy Johnson.
Bumpy Johnson, right? And the Queen, right? And the Queen. Actually, it was the Queen who started the numbers.
That's right.
Right, and Bumpy Johnson just got out of prison to come and help her. Right.
These were people who could not acclimate to slavery.
Right.
You know, and say, well, I'll do whatever I have to do to stay out of slavery.
Right.
These are not one of the problems with drug dealers.
Right.
Is they are still slaves and
Absolutely.
still operate on a slave mentality.
That's exactly right.
That's why they're trying to accumulate stuff to impress other slaves.
Right. You're talking now, not to cut you off. I'm sorry, guys, for cutting them off. But that's when you're talking about Frank Lucas and the commission. The commission.
You still are operating from a slave mind. You're not trying.
What was that other guy?
You want to be free.
Frank Lucas.
You just want a better deal with your slaves.
That's it. That's exactly right. And you're pushing your drugs to your own people.
That's how you know you're a slave.
Right.
Because your money, you are justifying what you get by the fact that you destroying your own community gets you this, and this.
Materialism.
But it's not just material.
No, I know, right.
It's that you are using the exact same methodology as
the
your
massa.
demon massa.
That's exact.
Get it.
Perfect analogy. But what something's got to give, because you walk through Harlem. I walk through Harlem all the time. You don't even have to stop. You can just look around and see the culture, meaning the buildings, but you don't see the people.
Right.
You see Caucasians.
Right.
You know, you see Indians.
Right.
But you don't see black people.
Right.
And I'm not speaking from a prejudice standpoint, but Harlem was built for black people by black people. You go down 125th Street. 125th Street was thriving black businesses.
Correct.
I mean, it's like, oh, we're gonna bring Harlem to another level. No, you gentrified Harlem and you moved out all the people because they couldn't afford to live there.
We have acclimated. We have, and it kind of happened in the 70s. We began to think we had arrived. So the focus shifted from building our own, getting our own, to try to assimilate into white, to try to get white daddy to love us, to prove and to approve of and love us, and I am accused of X, Y, and Z, not because I am talking about doing anything to white folks, it's because I'm talking about living life without their approval.
Right. That's the way I live life. You know me. We both live that way. We don't care. We don't care. I don't need anybody's approval.
And white folks hate it when you don't invite them to the party. They really do.
No, I know. They're trying to scheme. They're scheming to bring you down.
Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey bought his way out of slavery, and they accused Denmark Vesey. I still don't believe this because it's too far fetched, and nothing ever happened after they killed him. But one of the things that was going on in the time of Denmark Vesey was not plantation slavery. In South Carolina, it was a thing called urban slavery.
Urban slavery, that's right.
And because black people who were enslaved could actually were allowed to go out and make money by different means to keep that money. Keep a percentage of that money. You created a system and a society where black folks had all the artisan skills. They had all the carpentry skills. They had all the skills.
We had every skill that we needed.
White folks didn't have no skills because there was no work for white folks. We had all the skills and we could get some monies. So during the course of Denmark Vesey, having this kind of
control.
Right.
For the lack of better words.
As a matter of fact, they had the way to get out of slavery. they called it meritorious manumission.
Right,
If you saved the life of your master, you could get free.
Right.
If you came up with an idea
Right.
that he could use to make a lot of money,
You can be free.
you could get free.
But you cannot use that idea ever again.
No.
Right.
If you happen upon some money, you can buy yourself out. That's
Right.
what Denmark
That's he did. Right.
Okay. Now, Denmark VC went out, hit a lotto, bought himself out of slavery. But there was something else going on in South Carolina at the time. There was the AME Church.
Yep.
And there was the mulatto elite and the black elite.
Right.
Most slaves during that time were first generation African slaves.
Right.
If your mama got raped, you had a chance of getting out of town.
That's sad but true. That's the way to. That's right.
There was just like in Harlem, the Harlem Renaissance. There was a renaissance going on among black and brown children of the Middle Passage of slavery. Right. And what they were doing, people who had got free were starting to build great institutions. They had this church, and the church was the most problematic thing of all.
Right. In the black community, yeah, that's right.
Because unlike in Philadelphia, where the AME church was ruled by white folks, and frequented by black folks, the one in South Carolina was totally black folks.
Yep, all black.
And
ruled by black.
Right. And you had all of these black folks sitting anywhere they wanted.
Right.
All of different shades.
Right.
You had freed light-skinned blacks in the same church as enslaved dark-skinned blacks.
Right.
From all sorts of communities.
Right.
And they in this building. White folks don't know what they talking about.
Right.
They know that they got all the skills. They are great builders. They're coming up with these institutions. They were building their own opera houses, their own gospel houses.
Well, basically the infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Right.
You don't know what they doing in there. It was driving white people crazy.
Right.
I mean, they were afraid to death of this Black Power movement that they couldn't see what was going on.
The revolution, baby.
Right. Mostly what they were probably doing in there was singing songs.
Right. Oh Lord, help me. Right. But it scared them. Right. It scared them. Right.
In came Eli Whitney and the cotton gin.
Right.
And they found a reason to take all of the property from the black elite, take everything, and find a reason to remand all of them back into slavery.
Yep, that's right.
And give them nothing. That's
right.
what the 12 years of slavery
was about. All right.
He threw his papers down. I don't care nothing about your papers.
Right. Don't mean anything.
That was that. If you don't have any time reference, if you have no historical knowledge of history to bolster what you are seeing, you misinterpret what you're seeing.
Knowledge yourself. Okay, we only got a few minutes. Let's talk about that was
Bill Maher.
Hold on a second. I have to commend you. This conversation was unlike any other conversation we had because we actually gave our viewers history.
Right.
You know, and hopefully black and white and brown people got something out of our conversation. But let's talk about Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Bill Maher, if you guys don't know, I actually like Bill Maher because he's been pro-black, you know, but
he's
progressive, right? Thank you for the sake of better words.
Right.
He was on with the Senator
Ben Sachs.
Ben Sachs from Nebraska.
Right. Ben
Zass. Now, I personally think it was, if you look at it, it was a setup. Well, he said this. Ben said this. Well, so, Bill, you can come on and work in the fields, work with us.
Right.
And Bill said, oh, no, I won't work in the field. He's looking for a job. I'll be a house.
Right.
Now, do I think that was wrong?
He said, I'm not a field Negro, I'm a house Negro. But he didn't say Negro.
He said the N-word, right. I don't think he should get a pass.
Well, he didn't get a pass. He apologized. But I will say this.
You think he should be fired?
No.
No. Okay.
No. He actually did me a favor because unlike the way the rap community uses the word,
Right.
Which is basically to denigrate each other and show contempt for each other, and then give permission to white people to use that word
in the same context.
Right, right. He was actually, whether he know it or not, giving historical contents to the word itself.
Right. Actually, he was giving a history lesson.
Correct.
That's what he was doing.
He said house.
The N-word. Right.
Real Negro.
Right.
There is historical context to that.
Absolutely.
And if we understood the historical context of things,
then
we
we wouldn't
would
be able
operate a little better.
Absolutely.
So I'm not that concerned about what Bill Maher. They get on my nerves. They get on a lot of people's nerves.
Right.
But I'm more concerned with how do we meet the challenges that we are presented with so that we can get back on track.
And you know what? Now, we preach that every single day.
That's right.
And not just once a week.
Right.
Every day, 7 days a week,
Right.
through our social media, through radio, through whatever,
Right.
that using that word
Right.
is so unacceptable because, guys, our ancestors fought. That word was made up by white people.
Well, that's right.
That word was made up by white people.
Made up by white people.
So, but and it was in a
it's not a
derogatory.
Zulu
Right. No. It's not something that they didn't. The white people didn't.
Designed to be derogatory.
But exactly.
Right.
It was. We as black people
Beyond derogatory.
don't use it. Yes, it was the degrading to hate.
Dehumanize
Right.
you.
Hate.
Dehumanize
And
you.
hate was
justify anything that they did to you, and the things that were done to you were beyond atrocious.
Right.
Beyond atrocious.
Because do you know some of our
they
ancestors?
first had to dehumanize you, and
That's how they did it.
used. Right.
Did you know that some of our ancestors, that was the last word they heard when they got before they got hung and killed themselves?
Right.
So I find it very offensive.
And we have and I only got a couple of minutes,
Right.
but we have sanitized the process of lynching, because before the lynching, many times came the castration.
Right. That's right.
It was a horrible procedure.
Right.
And it was done as a form of entertainment. It was like a Jay-Z concert.
Right.
They would all come out and witness this stuff.
Right.
And they
Women, kids,
They even lynched women and children. I mean, it wasn't just men. You know.
And you know what? And that's the thing. That's one thing I have. I don't like rap, because if you think about, I don't care how you look at rap, it's all says the same thing. I want money. I want to degrade my woman. I want to go to prison. It's the same.
See, I don't want to blame the art form.
That's not art, Nat.
Artist.
It's not art. I don't look at it as art.
Any art form can be art.
Right.
If the artist is if the artist is an artist.
Right.
There are people who Andre Serrano used to piss and come on the canvas and sell it for all sorts of money. If that makes you
an artist,
if that makes you Romare Bearden or Michelangelo, fine.
But you want to talk about rap? Rap was, to me.
But that's what they're doing.
But
they're pissing on the canvas.
And selling you. But look, the revolution will not be televised.
Right.
That was a rapper.
The revolution is the only thing.
But I'm saying, that was a rapper.
That's the only way you can get the revolution is tune in.
But that was a rapper.
Yeah.
What was his name? The rapper who did that.
Oh, you're talking about Gil Scott.
Gil Scott.
Right.
Original rapper.
Right.
He rapped about what's going on in the world.
Right.
And not degrading women and trying to make money and try to blah, blah. All these fake ass gangsters.
Well, it was part of black culture. And
do you think this rap is part of black culture?
No, I think this is something that white people have told them sells, and they comply. I think rap has become a part of slave culture.
Thank you. On that note, guys, I'm gonna say this. Thank you for watching us. Nat, congratulations on our award. Because you did it. You picked me. So, guys, remember this. I'm going to let Nat have the last word of this. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're still among the stars. We'll see you next week. You get the last word. It's your show.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to try our best to just make the program better and better and better
week,
because
baby.
we are part of this community. We love this community, and we will not disrespect our own community by giving them something less than what they deserve, and they deserve the best.
Dude, you're on it.
This is the foxiest news that anyone can ever come to report with the weather. It seems, if you ask a meteorologist, it's cloudy with a chance of Wi-Fi, but that's another endeavor. Right now, for the youth and 8 million grateful readers attached, Vernon Howard, exposing human sharks, 100 way, number 96, new way. See the facts. In human relations, you always get to the person's nature. So what are you getting? Is he hardened in hatred? Does he think it's funny to trick people? He spills his sickness in a circle. He gives what he is and you get it all. Does this explain your weariness and despair? Let it. God never requires you to suffer from another person's galloping paranoia. You can find your own soul by losing a lost soul. Let this give you plenty to see and do and enjoy. Call the convoy to understand that if I am anti-eugenic and anti-separatist and anti-euphoric, I am wrong. If I'm anti-emasculation, I must be anti-LGBT, right? Wrong! True sensitive male to know that we are all a whale sitting in a sperm. And I don't even understand the sperm whale when I understand I sit in an urn. And this one soul that I am is much more than many, for I understand that it's been Moloch for plenty. But they all just try to howl with an incantation and a hidden vowel. Arm, leg, arm, head, keep a body fed. Allah is not black, Yahweh is not white. It's my way, not Yahweh instead. They trying to murk your bruh for his Merkaba. They're trying to murk your bruh for his Merkaba. But it's up and down, in and out, caught inside the algorithm, a silent prison. Paging CPEP, yes, it seems we